When I shared this huge bag of free inventory with you guys back in May, I framed it as an experiment. Zero cost of goods, 6.5 hours worth of work, and one big question mark. So today we are going to answer the age-old reselling question when it comes to free inventory. Was it worth the time? Equals friends, welcome back to my channel. Now today is not a highlight reel, instead it is an honest breakdown of what worked, what dragged, and what I would do differently. So for a little context, back in May I shared a video with you where a family member had gifted me a humongous outdoor garbage bag full of free inventory. Now if you haven't seen that video, I will link it above and below if you want to go check it out before you watch this recap. Now when it comes to inventory that's free, yes, there was no money spent on this inventory. However, there was a lot of time spent. I spent a total of 6.5 hours between sorting through everything to determine what was saleable and what needed to be donated. I then needed to photograph, measure, list everything, as well as putting it away, cross-listing it, all the things that go into taking an item and listing it. So getting free inventory only works if the time that you put into it is justified by the final return. So let's talk some numbers. Here is where we have landed so far. I still have 12 items that still have not sold, and basically at this point they're all in my eBay clearance category, so there is still a potential for a little bit more profit that is not included in these numbers. Yes, at this point we can say that this experiment was profitable. So let's talk about some categories because these are not random. I am noticing this pattern when it comes to me reselling. If you watch my 2026, how I'm rebuilding my reselling business, you'll see some overlap with the categories there. And as I may have shared with you in that video, as we were talking about a lot of these brands and pieces, these are not trendy items. They are items for real buyers, even a more mature customer, but it doesn't matter because they still have reselling value. There are people out shopping and looking for this. So it is an important reminder that you do not have to follow trends. Think about it in your real life. Not everybody you know follows trends, keeps up with trends, but every woman you know shops. So it's just a matter of finding those niches that will work. Now, wins are great to know, but these draggers are what you really want to know because these are the mistakes not to make, wasting your time listing in the future. So even free inventory is not worth babysitting forever. Some of the items in this category had to be relisted multiple times, and I did not count that relisting in that 6.5 hours in that original video. So there was a little bit more time spent in relisting these things, and definitely it was not worth it as some of these items only made me single-digit returns. So let's talk time because that's where the real cost is here. As you know, I made a profit and it took me 6.5 hours to do so. So if you divide that out, it looks like I've made about $68 per hour with this haul, which looks pretty good. And I still have the potential to make more money, assuming that any of those clearance items actually sell through. But it's important to remember, not every free inventory haul is worth it. Let's talk a few takeaways so that you can get a better idea of when free haul inventory is worth it. Now, I made this free haul work not because the items themselves were free, but because I was focused. For example, I bundled things aggressively. So many pairs of women within jogger pants that I decided to list those in bundles of 3, and surprisingly, they sold for a pretty decent profit. I priced things to move. I reminded myself, this is free inventory, now is not the time to get greedy, let's price it to get it out the door. Now, when you have no cost of goods, your time is the cost. So you have to be very particular about photographing. Now, I usually photograph a lot of my women's product on Miss Manny Quinn, and I did not use her this time and opted for flat lays or just hanger poses because that's just 2 sides on a hanger and my measurements. A flat lay, I just did the flat lay, showed the label and my measurements. So speeding that up saved me time, which in the long run gave me more margin, more dollars in my pocket. Now, my last takeaway is I did have to let some categories go for lower than I normally would. Like, for example, there were a handful of dresses in here. Dresses are always a top performing category for me. I make decent money reselling dresses. I priced these dresses high as I normally would, and they sat. So I came back around and I aggressively marked them down. This is free inventory. These are not dresses that I ever would have picked up in the wild. So if they're not moving, then it's time to slash the prices to get them gone. This is your reminder, free inventory only works if you do not treat it like it's priceless. The big question is, would I sell free inventory again? Of course, absolutely. If you've watched this channel for any time, you know I love me a good freebie haul. I tell all my friends and family that I am in the reselling business. If there's anything they would donate, give it to me first. I'll sort through it and I'll donate what I can't use. Freebie hauls are definitely worth it, especially if you are a beginner resell. Now, having said that, freebie hauls come with rules. So, how do I decide what I'm going to donate and what I'm going to keep? Well, if the free inventory is in my best-selling categories, absolutely I am keeping it and listing it. If I'm not spending luxury time on low-cost goods, I need to be able to either get a high retail value out of them, or it takes no time to list them. And also, free does not override boundaries. Any of these boundaries that I've set, I cannot then say, oh, I don't need to follow those rules because it's free. No, because that's gonna be what's left in that clearance category that you've had to go back, relist, touch again, and you're putting more time and effort into it. And like we said, when it comes to free product, time is money. This haul did not just make me money, it further reinforced my strategies that I have for rebuilding my reselling business in 2026. And if you want to know more about that and you were not able to see last week's video where I share that in detail, I'll go ahead and link it above and below for you. Now, my big question for you is, of course, do you guys like free inventory? Does it come with rules? Do you not care if it's free, you're gonna list it? Let me know how you feel about free inventory in the comment section below, because you guys know I adore hearing from you. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. And I will be back at you next week with some more reselling content. Until then, don't forget, the remake, it can outshine the original. Have a fabulous week, friends. Bye.